The explosion tore through the royal palace's eastern wing 3 seconds before the alarm systems could react. Princess Zaraketh of the Valonian Empire hit the marble floor as debris rained down around her ceremonial chamber. Her 4 arms instinctively covered her head, while her muscular tail coiled protectively around her midsection. Through the ringing in her pointed ears, she heard the distinct crack of plasma rifles and the screams of her personal guards dying in the corridor outside. Her husband, Jake Murphy, had been standing by the window just moments ago, staring at the twin moons with that distant look humans got when they were thinking. Now he was pressed against her, his comparatively small frame shielding her body with his own. She felt his heart hammering against her back, rapid and fierce, like the war drums of her ancestors. "Stay down," he whispered, his voice carrying an edge she had never heard in their 6 months of marriage. The diplomatic union between Earth and Valonia had been arranged to cement the peace treaty, and Zara had accepted her duty willingly. Jake had seemed pleasant enough, if unremarkably soft, like most humans. He wrote poetry, enjoyed classical music, and had never once raised his voice. The perfect consort for a warrior princess who needed someone gentle to balance her fierce nature. The door to her chamber exploded inward. 4 Krell assassins poured through the smoking entrance, their reptilian features twisted in predatory grins. Their scales gleamed like polished obsidian, and each carried enough firepower to level a city block. The Krell Dominion had opposed the Human-Valonian alliance from the beginning, but Zara never imagined they would dare attack the royal family directly. "Princess Zaraketh," the lead assassin hissed, his forked tongue tasting the air. "Your death will reignite the war your marriage tried to prevent. Humanity will be blamed." Perfect. Zara tried to rise, reaching for the ceremonial blade at her hip, but Jake's hand pressed firmly on her shoulder. She looked at him in confusion. His face had changed. The soft, dreamy expression she knew so well had vanished, replaced by something cold and calculating. His brown eyes, usually warm and kind, now held the flat, emotionless gaze of a predator assessing prey. "Jake, we need to fight," she urged, her warrior training screaming at her to engage the enemy. "No," he said quietly, "you need to stay behind me." Before she could protest, Jake stood up slowly, deliberately, placing himself between Zara and the 4-armed killers. He raised his empty hands in what looked like a gesture of surrender. The assassins laughed a sound like grinding stones. "The human poet," the leader mocked. "We researched you, Jake Murphy. Graduate student in literature. No military service. No combat training. You write sonnets about starlight. This will be easier than expected." Jake's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "You researched me." "That's good. Did you happen to check which graduate program?" The assassin's eyes narrowed. "Earth University, Literature Department." "Oxford campus," Jake confirmed. His voice remained eerily calm. "Did you know that Earth has 47 universities called Oxford? 17 of them have literature departments. Only one of them is actually about literature." Zara felt her blood chill despite the heat from the fires burning around them. She had assumed Jake attended the famous ancient university on Earth's European continent. He had never asked which one specifically. "The Oxford you're thinking of closed in 2247, Jake continued, taking a single step forward. The assassins tensed but held their ground, amused by what they perceived as bravado. "The Oxford I attended opened in 2251 on the Ross colony. Full name: Oxford Military Intelligence Academy. Literature is what we call our cryptography and psychological warfare program. I didn't write poetry for fun, gentlemen. I wrote it to learn 73 different methods of embedding kill codes in diplomatic communications." The lead assassin's amusement faltered. "You're bluffing? Am I?" Jake's hand moved to his collar, fingers working at what Zara had always assumed was a decorative pin. This isn't a peace symbol. It's a neural suppressor required for all Oxford graduates who go into deep-covered diplomatic positions. The Terran Defense Corps doesn't let their top specialists walk around unregulated. He pulled the pin free, and Zara watched in shock as her husband's entire body language transformed. His posture shifted, weight balanced on the balls of his feet, hands loose and ready. The change was so profound he seemed to grow taller, more dangerous. This was not the man who had held her hand during state dinners and recited gentle verses before sleep. "Last chance," Jake said softly. "Leave now. Tell your masters the assassination failed. Walk away." The assassins opened fire. Plasma bolts screamed through the air where Jake had been standing, but he was already moving. Zara had fought in 3 campaigns and trained with the finest warriors in the Valonian military. She had never seen anything move like her husband moved. Now he flowed between the energy blasts, like water, each movement precise and minimal, wasting no energy. His hand lashed out and caught the nearest assassin's wrist, redirecting the plasma rifle's aim into the second attacker. The Krell's own weapon vaporized his companion before he could process what happened. Jake twisted, using the first assassin's body as a shield, while his other hand struck 3 times in rapid succession. Zara heard bones crack. The assassin dropped, his weapon clattering to the floor. Jake caught it before it hit the ground, spun and fired twice. 2 headshots. 2 bodies. The entire sequence took less than 4 seconds. The leader stood alone now, his confidence shattered. He raised his weapon, hands shaking. "What are you?" Jake tilted his head, and for a moment Zara saw the gentle man she married peek through the deadly stranger wearing his face. "I'm exactly what Earth needed me to be. Your people were right to fear the human-Valonian alliance. Just for the wrong reasons. You thought we were soft. You thought peace made us weak. But humans don't make peace because we can't fight. We make peace because we're too good at it." The assassin's finger tightened on the trigger. Jake moved again, impossibly fast, closing the distance before the weapon could fire. His hand struck the Krell's throat, and the assassin collapsed, gasping and clutching at his crushed windpipe. Silence fell over the ruined chamber, broken only by the crackling of flames and distant alarms. Jake stood among the bodies, breathing steadily, the weapon still held with professional ease. Then his shoulders sagged slightly and he dropped the rifle. When he turned to face Zara, his eyes were haunted. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice raw. "I never wanted you to see this part of me." The treaty required someone who could protect you while appearing harmless. Someone the other races would dismiss. Someone who could be underestimated. Zara rose slowly, her forearms trembling, though not from fear. She looked at the male she had married, truly seeing him for the first time. The Earth government hadn't sent her a poet. They had sent her a weapon disguised as a poet, a guardian wrapped in gentle words and soft smiles. Someone who could stand in the shadows of her throne and be dismissed as irrelevant while possessing the skills to end any threat before it reached her. She should have felt betrayed, manipulated, used. Instead, she felt something else entirely, something that made her warrior's heart beat faster and her blood sing with recognition. She had thought she married beneath her station, accepted a soft male to satisfy political necessity. But Earth had given her something far more valuable. They had given her an equal. "How many?" she asked quietly. Jake understood immediately. 43 successful protective details, 17 deep cover operations, 112 confirmed threats neutralized before they became active, 0 principles lost. He paused. "You're my 44th assignment. But you were never supposed to be just an assignment." The walls shook as another explosion rocked the palace. More attackers, Zara realized. This wasn't a simple assassination attempt. This was a full-scale assault, and they were just getting started. Jake picked up 2 of the fallen plasma rifles, checked their charges with practiced efficiency, and held one out to her. "Your Highness, we need to move. This chamber isn't secure, and backup won't reach us for at least 10 minutes. Can you fight beside me?" Zara took the weapon, her warrior training overriding her shock. "I'm Valonian royalty. I was bred for war." "Good," Jake said, moving toward the shattered doorway. "Then let me show you how humans really fight when the galaxy makes the mistake of threatening what we love." They moved into the smoke-filled corridor together, and Princess Zaraketh realized that her marriage, her alliance, and her entire understanding of humanity was about to be rewritten in fire and blood. The palace burned around them, and the real battle was only just beginning. The corridor was a war zone. Bodies of Zara's personal guard lay scattered across the ornate floor, their purple blood mixing with the gold inlay of the royal crest. Smoke choked the air, and emergency lights cast everything in a pulsing red glow. Jake moved through it all with the fluid confidence of someone who had seen worse, much worse, and lived to talk about it. He held his plasma rifle in a low, ready position, eyes constantly scanning, processing threats faster than Zara could track. "Stay 3 paces behind me, offset to my right," he instructed, his voice clipped and professional. "If I drop, you advance and cover the angle I was watching. Don't hesitate, don't think, just react." Zara bristled at being given orders. She was royalty, a decorated war veteran who had led battalions in the Outer Rim campaigns, but she was also smart enough to recognize expertise when she saw it. This wasn't her husband asking. This was a professional operating in his element, and pride would only get them killed. They rounded the corner into the grand gallery, and Jake immediately dropped to one knee, his weapon tracking left. Zara mirrored his movement instinctively, covering right. 6 more Krell assassins were attempting to breach the royal vault at the far end of the hall, plasma torches cutting through the reinforced doors. They spotted Jake and Zara simultaneously, and the gallery erupted in weapons fire. Jake didn't waste ammunition. Each trigger pull was deliberate, measured. He fired in controlled pairs, targeting center mass, and when that didn't drop the heavily armored Krell fast enough, he adjusted to joint shots, exploiting weaknesses in their exoskeletons. His tactical analysis was instantaneous, adapting to each opponent's armor configuration and fighting style within seconds. Zara fired in bursts, her Valonian military training emphasizing suppressive fire and overwhelming force. She hit 3 targets, the massive plasma charges from her rifle literally cooking the Krell inside their armor. But Jake's economy of motion fascinated her. He moved like he was dancing with death itself, each step calculated, each shot purposeful. Nothing wasted, nothing unnecessary. "Reloading," Jake called, dropping behind a marble pillar. Zara immediately increased her rate of fire, providing cover while he swapped power cells with the speed of someone who had performed the action thousands of times. He was back up in 3 seconds, and they advanced together, moving from cover to cover with a synchronization that shouldn't have been possible for 2 people who had never trained together. They cleared the gallery in 90 seconds. Zara stood among the cooling bodies, breathing hard, adrenaline singing through her veins. Jake was already moving to the vault controls, his fingers flying across the interface. "They were after the treaty documents," he said, reading the access logs, "and the quantum communication array. If they destroyed both, they could fabricate any story they wanted about tonight. Make it look like Earth betrayed Valonia. Restart the war. Can you stop them?" Zara asked, moving to cover the entrance they had just come through. "Already done. I'm implementing Protocol Nightfall. Every major news outlet in 3 sectors just received encrypted copies of the actual treaty terms, along with live footage from the security cameras. Whatever happens here tonight, the truth is already out." He looked up at her, and for a moment the cold operator's mask slipped. "I've been updating the protocol every night since we married, making sure you'd be protected even if I failed." Zara felt something crack inside her chest. 6 months. 6 months of him lying beside her, reading poetry, discussing art and philosophy, all while secretly ensuring her survival and the stability of two civilizations. The dedication, the loneliness of living such a complete lie, the strength it must have taken. Jake, The wall exploded inward. A massive Krell war machine, a mechanized assault frame 12 feet tall, stepped through the rubble. Its pilot was visible through the reinforced canopy, and Zara recognized him immediately. Commander Draaskque, one of the Krell Dominion's most decorated military leaders. His presence here meant this wasn't just a rogue operation. This was sanctioned at the highest levels of Krell government. The human and the princess, Draaskque's voice boomed through the mech's external speakers. How convenient. I'll kill you both and declare it was a human betrayal. My people have waited decades for an excuse to crush Earth. Tonight, you give me that excuse. The mech's arm cannons charged with a whine that made Zara's teeth ache. At this range, in this enclosed space, they were dead. The assault frame shields could withstand anything their small arms could produce, and its weapons would vaporize them before they could retreat. Jake stepped forward, placing himself between Zara and the war machine. Again, always putting himself between her and danger, even when it was hopeless. The gesture was so fundamentally human, so illogically brave, that Zara wanted to scream at him. This wasn't poetry. This wasn't a romantic story. This was physics and firepower, and they were outmatched. Zara, Jake said softly, never taking his eyes off the mech. Do you trust me? She thought about the last 6 months, the gentle touches, the late-night conversations, the way he listened when she talked about the pressures of being 7th in line for the throne, the poetry he had written for her. Verses about starlight and hope that she now understood were probably embedded with security protocols and threat assessments. Every moment had been real and false simultaneously, truth wrapped in necessary deception. Yes, she said, and meant it completely. Then, when I say run, you run. Don't look back. Don't argue. Just survive. His hand moved to his chest, fingers finding another hidden object beneath his shirt. I'm sorry I won't get to read you the poem I was working on. It was actually just a poem this time. About you. The real you I got to know. Jake, no! He pulled the object free. A small metallic disc that began to pulse with blue light. Codename was Shepard. Real name is Jake Murphy. Primary mission: protect Princess Zaraketh. Secondary mission: prevent war between Earth and Valonia. Status: both missions accomplished. He looked back at her one final time, and his smile was genuine, free of pretense. It was real, Zara. Everything we had was real. I need you to know that. Then he threw the disc at the war machine and screamed, "Run!" Zara ran. She hated herself for it, hated every instinct that screamed at her to stay and fight beside him, but she ran because he had asked her to and because some deep part of her understood that this was the last order he would ever give. She made it 15 paces before the world turned white. The electromagnetic pulse weapon, a device so illegal that possessing one carried an automatic death sentence in 40 systems, detonated with the force of a small star. The EMP wave fried every electronic system in a 100-meter radius. The war machine's shields collapsed instantly, its weapons died, and its pilot was left sitting in a very expensive coffin. But the pulse didn't discriminate. It killed the lights, the security systems, the automated defenses, everything. In the darkness, Zara heard Jake move. She had dropped her weapon, the electronics fried by the pulse, but her eyes were adjusting to the emergency luminescence from the palace's chemical backup lights. Jake had somehow kept moving through the blast, immune to its effects on technology, because he was using something older than circuitry. He had picked up a piece of rebar from the rubble, a simple metal rod about 4 feet long, and he was climbing the war machine. Commander Draaskque was screaming inside his dead mech, manually trying to engage backup systems, but military hardware was designed to resist EMP attacks and required complete system reboots that took time he didn't have. Jake reached the canopy, jammed the rebar into the emergency release mechanism, and leveraged it open with brutal efficiency. What happened next was too fast and too violent for Zara to fully process. Jake dropped into the cockpit with the Krill commander, and the sounds that emerged were wet and final. When Jake climbed back out 30 seconds later, he was covered in purple blood, and Commander Draaskque was no longer a threat to anyone. Jake dropped from the mech, stumbled, and fell to his knees. The EMP had fried his neural suppressor along with everything else, and Zara could see him struggling with the sudden flood of unchecked neurological enhancement. Humans had developed the suppressors for good reason. The combat modifications that made operatives like Jake possible came with severe psychological costs when unregulated. Zara rushed to him, her forearms catching him before he collapsed completely. His eyes were wild, pupils dilated, and his breathing was ragged. "Zara," he gasped, "need to get you to the safe room." "More will come, always more. Protocol says." "Stop," she commanded, using the royal voice that compelled obedience. "Jake Murphy, I am ordering you to stop. The threat is neutralized. You succeeded. We're secure for now." He blinked, trying to focus on her face. "Mission accomplished," she said firmly. "Both of them. I'm safe. The war is prevented. The truth is transmitted. You can rest now." Something in his eyes cleared slightly. The tactical operator receded, and she saw glimpses of the man who read her poetry returning. "Did I scare you?" he asked quietly. Zara laughed, a sound that was part sob, part genuine amusement. "You terrified me. You also saved my life multiple times in the last 10 minutes. You also lied to me about everything you are." She tightened her grip on him. "You also wrote me poetry while monitoring 43 potential assassination vectors. You're the most complicated male I've ever met, and I'm a princess of the Valonian Empire. We invented—" "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Don't be. Earth sent me a weapon disguised as a poet. But somewhere along the way, the poet became real too, didn't it? Those moments we shared, the conversations, the way you held me when I cried about my brother's death. That was real." "All of it was real," Jake confirmed. "The cover story was that I was a poet. The truth is, I'm a killer. But the reality is, I'm a man who fell in love with an alien princess who was brave enough to marry a stranger for peace. Everything else is just details." Palace security finally arrived, led by General Krix, Zara's chief of military operations. He took in the scene with experienced eyes. The dead assassins, the disabled war machine, the princess cradling her human husband who was covered in enemy blood. His expression shifted from alarm to understanding to respect. "Your Highness," Krix said formally. "Are you injured?" "No," Zara replied. "Thanks to my husband." Krix looked at Jake with new assessment. "The Earth government contacted us 3 hours ago, warned us of the assassination attempt through their intelligence channels, said their asset was in position and would protect you until reinforcements arrived." "I didn't realize the asset was your consort."
"Neither did I," Zara admitted.
"Apparently my husband is full of surprises." "Not just your husband, Highness." Krix pulled out a secure tablet, one of the few devices hardened against EMP strikes. Earth's ambassador just transmitted a full briefing. "Jake Murphy holds the rank of colonel in the Terran Defense Intelligence Corps. He's been operational for 12 years with a perfect record. His assignment to your security detail was approved at the highest levels of both our governments. Your marriage was real in the legal sense, but it was also a strategic alliance designed to place one of Earth's best assets in position to protect you and the peace treaty." Zara looked down at Jake, who had the decency to look embarrassed. "Colonel?" "It seemed pretentious to mention," he muttered. "You're ridiculous," she said. But she was smiling. "What else haven't you told me? I actually do have a literature degree, from the real Oxford. Got it before I joined the military." The poetry is genuine. I'm just also trained in 17 forms of combat and certified in 42 weapon systems. Renaissance man, Crix observed dryly. Princess, we need to move you to secure location. The Krell government is already disavowing Commander Draaskque's actions, claiming he went rogue.
They're requesting emergency peace talks. Of course they are, Zara said.
They just realized that humanity isn't as soft as they thought. Jake, can you walk? He nodded, accepting her help to stand. Together, supported by each other, they followed General Crix through the damaged palace. Behind them, security teams were already processing the scene, cataloging the assassination attempt that had failed so spectacularly. As they walked, Zara leaned close to Jake and whispered, "This poem you were writing, the one about the real me. When do I get to hear it?" Jake smiled, and it was the warm, genuine expression she had fallen in love with over 6 months of marriage. When we're safe. When the crisis is over, when I can hold your hand without constantly scanning for threats, I want to give it to you properly. I'll hold you to that, Colonel Murphy. I certainly hope so, Your Highness. They emerged into the palace's secure bunker where medical teams waited to check them over and diplomats prepared for the inevitable political fallout. But for just a moment, Zara allowed herself to simply exist in the present, holding on to her husband who was both more and less than he had appeared to be. The galaxy had tried to tear them apart tonight. It had failed. And Zara suspected that was a lesson the Krell Dominion and every other potential threat would remember for a very long time. Humanity had joined the galactic community with handshakes and smiles, but beneath the peaceful exterior, they were still apex predators. They had simply learned to hide their fangs until absolutely necessary. Her husband had just shown the galaxy what happened when humanity decided that necessary had arrived, and Zara found herself grateful beyond measure that Earth's fangs were on her side. The secure bunker's medical bay smelled of antiseptic and ozone, a stark contrast to the smoke and blood they had left behind. Zara sat on an examination table while a Valonian medic checked her for injuries, though her attention remained fixed on Jake. He was 3 tables away, stripped to the waist, while a human doctor from Earth's embassy ran scanners over his torso. The neural suppressor's removal had left burn marks across his collarbone, angry red lines that spoke of technology interfacing with biology in ways nature never intended. "Your Highness, you're remarkably uninjured," the medic said, sounding almost disappointed. "Minor abrasions, elevated stress hormones, but nothing requiring treatment." "My husband is very good at his job," Zara replied, still watching Jake. The human doctor was frowning at his readings, and she felt a spike of concern. "Is he all right?" The doctor looked up, seeming surprised that she had asked. "He will be, Highness. The neural suppressor keeps his combat augmentations in check, prevents neurological burnout. Without it, his system is running hot. He needs a replacement unit within 24 hours, or the modifications will start causing permanent damage." "Then get him one," Zara commanded. "The nearest replacement is on Earth," the doctor said carefully. "We can have it here in 18 hours via quantum courier, but that's cutting it close. Alternatively, we could put him in medical stasis until—" "No stasis," Jake interrupted, his voice carrying across the medical bay. "I'm not leaving the princess unguarded while there are still active threats. Colonel Murphy, you're in no condition to do my job." Jake slid off the examination table, ignoring the doctor's protests. He pulled his shredded shirt back on, wincing slightly as fabric touched burned skin. Commander Draaskque was Krell military elite. His presence here means governmental backing, regardless of their official denials. They'll try again. Different approach, different timing, but they'll try. General Crix entered the medical bay, his expression grim. "The colonel is correct. Our intelligence has identified 3 more Krell ships in high orbit, supposedly here for diplomatic courtesy visits. They arrived 6 days ago, before the assassination attempt." Zara noted. "This was planned well in advance." "Months, we believe," Crix confirmed. "The Krell have been positioning assets throughout our space, waiting for an opportunity." Your marriage to the human was supposed to be a propaganda victory for peace. They wanted to turn it into a catalyst for war instead. Jake moved to stand beside Zara, and she noticed he was still scanning the room, identifying exits, assessing potential threats. Even injured, even running on failing augmentations, he couldn't turn off the tactical awareness. It was hardwired into him now, as much a part of his identity as his love of poetry. "What's Earth's response?" Jake asked. A new voice answered from the doorway. "Earth is very displeased." Zara turned to see Ambassador Helen Cortez, Earth's senior diplomatic representative to Valonia. The woman was 60 years old, gray-haired, and had the kind of smile that made career politicians nervous. She walked into the medical bay like she owned it, followed by 4 individuals in black tactical gear that marked them as Terran Defense Corps. "Colonel Murphy," Cortez said warmly, "good work tonight, though you did destroy a very expensive piece of illegal technology that wasn't technically yours to destroy." "Bill me," Jake replied without humor. Cortez laughed. "The Terran Council has already written it off as acceptable losses. Your primary mission remains intact, and frankly, watching you take down a Krell assault mech with a piece of rebar is going to make for excellent recruitment footage." She turned to Zara. "Your Highness, on behalf of Earth, I apologize for the deception regarding Colonel Murphy's assignment." "You placed a spy in my marriage," Zara said flatly. "We placed a guardian in your marriage," Cortez corrected. The fact that Jake is also excellent at intelligence gathering was a bonus. "But make no mistake, Highness, his primary loyalty was always to your safety. Earth takes its alliances seriously, and you are the living symbol of our treaty with Valonia." "We sent our best to ensure nothing happened to that symbol. And what happens now?" Zara asked. "The Krell will respond to this failure. They won't just give up." "No, they won't," Cortez agreed. "Which is why I'm here to propose a very undiplomatic solution." She gestured to the 4 soldiers behind her. "This is Strike Team Shepherd. Yes, we named them after your husband's code name. They're specialists in counter-assassination operations and aggressive threat elimination. With your permission, Highness, we'd like to deploy them to deal with the Krell problem permanently." Zara glanced at General Crix, who looked simultaneously intrigued and concerned. "What exactly does permanently mean, Ambassador?" "It means we stop pretending this is about diplomatic misunderstandings," one of the soldiers said. She was a compact woman with dark skin and eyes that reminded Zara of Jake's tactical assessment gaze. "The Krell Dominion has been testing boundaries for years. Tonight they crossed a line. We're offering to push back. Hard. This could escalate into war," Crix warned. "It could," Cortez acknowledged. "Or it could end a problem before it becomes an existential threat. The Krell believe humans are soft because we pursue peace. They think our diplomatic approach is weakness. Tonight proved otherwise, but they'll rationalize it as an anomaly. One exceptional soldier doesn't represent an entire species in their minds." "So you want to send more exceptional soldiers," Zara said, understanding the strategy. "Make them realize it's not an anomaly." "Exactly. Strike Team Shepherd will infiltrate the 3 Krell ships in orbit, gather intelligence on their actual mission parameters, and if those missions prove hostile, eliminate the threat. Quietly. Efficiently. No official Earth involvement. Just 4 people who don't exist solving a problem that never happened." Zara looked at Jake. "What do you think?" He was quiet for a moment, clearly weighing options. "I think the Krell made a mistake tonight. They revealed their hand too early, got overconfident. Strike Team Shepherd is good. Very good. If anyone can pull this off, it's them. But it's your decision, Zara. You're the one they tried to kill. You get to choose how we respond." The fact that he called it "we" instead of "you" wasn't lost on Zara. Somewhere in the last 6 months, Jake had stopped thinking of this as an assignment and started thinking of it as his life. Their life together. The realization made her chest tight. "Do it," Zara said. But I want full disclosure on the operation. No more secrets. If Earth is going to wage shadow war in my name, I deserve to know the details." Cortez smiled. "Agreed. You'll have full access to mission reports. In exchange, we need something from Valonia." "Name it," General Crick said. "Official joint training exercises between Valonian military and Terran Defense Corps. Public, visible, ongoing. We want every species in the galaxy to see our alliance isn't just political. It's military. We train together. We fight together. We protect each other. The Krell need to understand that attacking one of us means attacking both of us." Crix looked at Zara, who nodded. "The royal family will support this initiative. In fact, I'll personally lead the Valonian delegation. If Earth is willing to send their best to protect me, the least I can do is show the galaxy that our alliance is built on mutual respect and capability." "Outstanding," Cortez said. "Strike Team Shepard, you have authorization. Wheels up in 30 minutes, make it clean." The 4 soldiers filed out without a word, moving with the same efficient grace Jake had displayed during the fighting. Zara watched them go and wondered how many more people like her husband existed in humanity's military structure. How many poets and artists and scholars were actually weapons waiting to be deployed? "Ambassador, about Jake's neural suppressor," Zara said. "The replacement unit is already in system," Cortez interrupted. "We thought he might need it after tonight. The courier ship will dock within the hour. He'll be fully operational by morning." "Good." Zara stood, drawing herself up to her full 7-foot height. "Because my husband and I have a lot to discuss, and I'd prefer he be thinking clearly for it." Cortez and Crix took the hint, leaving the medical bay to give them privacy. The human doctor tried to insist Jake needed observation, but one look from Zara sent him scurrying after the others. When they were finally alone, Zara turned to face her husband. 6 months, she said quietly. 6 months of marriage, and I never knew who you really were." "I'm exactly who I've always been," Jake replied. "I just also happen to be other things too. The poetry was real, Zara. The conversations about art and philosophy and the meaning of peace. That was me. The genuine me. The rest is just training and modifications and skills I've acquired. But the core of who I am, the man who reads you verses before sleep, that's real. You killed 7 people tonight. I did. You would have killed more if necessary, without hesitation. And tomorrow, you'll go back to reading poetry and discussing the symbolism in ancient Valonian literature. If you'll let me." Zara crossed the distance between them, her 4 arms reaching out to pull him close. He came willingly, resting his head against her chest, and she felt him finally relax. The constant vigilance that had kept him alert since the attack faded slightly, replaced by a trust that made her heart ache. "I don't know how to reconcile these 2 versions of you," she admitted. "You don't have to," Jake said. "I'm not 2 people. I'm one person with a complicated skill set. You're a warrior princess who also writes children's stories for her nieces and nephews. You contain multitudes. So do I. We're not that different, Zara. We both learned to be what our people needed us to be while trying to hold on to who we want to be." She thought about that, about the weight of duty and expectation that had shaped both their lives. He was right. They were more alike than she had realized. 2 people trying to balance personal desires with political necessity, individual identity with collective responsibility. "The poem," she said, "the one about the real me. I want to hear it now." Jake pulled back slightly, looking up at her with surprise. "Now? We just survived an assassination attempt. There are diplomatic crises and military operations, and now," Zara insisted. "Before the replacement suppressor arrives and you go back to being whoever you need to be for the next crisis. Right now, in this moment, I want to hear the words of the man I married. Not the colonel, not the operative, just Jake."